what's going on, everybody? I hope you enjoyed the video. This is a collection of some of the graves that you and I have visited over the past year, and they were members of Hee-Haw. So this is the Hee-Haw Grave Collection. I hope you enjoy. Here's the entrance. So Grady Lee Nutt was born in Amarillo, Texas. He was born in a family of devout Baptists, and he was a licensed minister by the age of 13. He briefly attended Wayland Baptist College in Plainview, Texas, before transferring to Baylor. In 1960, he moved to Louisville to attend the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, where he simultaneously, pastored churches in the Louisville metro area. Words are hard sometimes. While serving as a minister and administrator, he began accepting speaking engagements. His speeches were blended with humor, and he came to the attention of Ralph Edwards, the producer of the popular TV series Truth or Consequences and This Is Your Life. He was soon a semi-regular on the Mike Douglas show, and in '79 he was added to the regular cast of Hee-Haw, a position he held until his death. On Hee-Haw, he was given 90 to 120 seconds in which he would do an improvised routine. In 1981, he was cast as Reverend Grady Williams in a pilot for an NBC sitcom called The Grady Nutt Show. The episode dealt with Reverend Williams being called to preach the funeral of a man disliked by the entire community and dealing with his teenage daughter's foray into dating. The 30-minute pilot was broadcast on NBC, but had not been put into production as a series at the time of his death. On November 23, 1982, following a speaking engagement in Coleman, Alabama, Nutt boarded a chartered flight. The plane crashed immediately after takeoff, killing Nutt, the pilot, and the co-pilot. The cause of the crash was undetermined, although weather conditions, fog and rain, were cited as contributing factors in the accident. So there you go. Nutt, Grady Lee. Matthew 13, 3 through 9. Now let's see what the back says. To me, this is the essence of living, to look back from the brink of death with a solid smile and say, I'm glad I did that. Grady Nutt. Let's talk about Grandpa Jones, shall we? Louis Marshall Jones, better known as Grandpa Jones, was born in a small farming community of Niagara in Henderson County, Kentucky. He was the youngest of 10 children in a sharecropper family. His first instrument was the guitar. He spent his teenage years in Ohio, where he began singing country music tunes on a radio show on WJW. And in 1931, Jones joined the Pine Ridge String Band, which provided the musical accompaniment for the very popular Lum and Abner show. See, those are infants from the 15 and 20. They lost 2 children. Gosh, that's tough, man. They both they were five years apart, and neither one of them made it. That's tough, man. By 1935, his pursuit of a musical career took him to WBZ Radio in Boston, where he met musician and songwriter Bradley Kincaid, who gave him the nickname Grandpa Jones when he was only 22 years old because of his offstage grumpiness at early morning radio shows. I can understand that, right? Jones liked the name and decided to create a stage persona around it. Based around it later in life, he lived in Mountain View, Arkansas. And in the 40s, he met rising country star Cousin Emmy, from who he learned to play the banjo. Gosh, I am struggling to talk today. Performing as Grandpa Jones, he played the guitar or banjo, he yodeled, and sang mostly old-time ballads. By 1937, Jones made his way to West Virginia, where Cousin Emmy taught Jones the art of the claw hammer style of banjo playing, which gave a rough flavor to the style of his performance. And in 1943, Jones made his recording debut for King Records. Jones was making records under his own name for King, and by 44, and had his first hit with "It's Raining Here This Morning." His recording career was put on hold when he enlisted in the U.S. Army during World War II, and he was discharged in 46, and he moved to Nashville and started performing on the Grand Ole Opry. He married Miss Ramona Riggins on October 14th of 1946. As an accomplished performer herself, she would take part in his performances. Jones' vaudeville humor was a bridge to television. His more famous songs include "T for Texas," "Are You from Dixie?" "Night Train to Memphis," "Mountain Dew," and "8 More Miles to Louisville." In the fall of 1968, Jones became a cast member of the long-running television show Hee-Haw, often responding to the show's skits with his trademark phrase, "Outrageous." He also played banjo by himself or with banjo player David Stringbean Aikman. In January of 1998, Grandpa Jones suffered 2 strokes after his second show performance at the Grand Ole Opry. He passed away on February 19th, 1998, at the age of 84. Here we go. Grandpa Jones. When you leave this earth for a better home someday, the only thing you'll take is what you gave away. Falling Leaves, written by Grandpa Jones. Dang it, the ants. And there's his wife, Miss Ramona. The new mown hay seeds all its fragrance from the fields I used to roam. When I dream about the moonlight on the Wabash, then I long for my Indiana home. That was written by Harley and McDonald. So yeah, somebody's placed a banjo. As a 6th grade dropout, Samples was into stock car racing, and he was a carpenter by trade, who went on the radio at the age of 40 and told a story about catching the largest fish ever seen in his hometown. The story was a humorous tall tale, and the recording on his radio story became the best-selling novel record, World's Biggest Whopper. He was asked to become part of the Hee-Haw cast in 1969 and created a bumbling personality, often stumbling or slow-talking his way through delivery, messing up jokes and forgetting lines. One sketch of the show he appeared in regularly was the Culhanes and Cornfield County, in which Junior, Gordy, Grandpa Jones, and Lulu would sit on the sofa and engage in comedic deadpan routine. Staples' most famous bit was as a used car salesman, inviting callers to call an old 5-digit phone number, BR549.
Ladies and gentlemen, the magic dealer of the used car world, Junior the Great!
Tonight I'm gonna pull a rabbit out of my hat. Where's the rabbit?
The hair's on top of your head.
I know, and there's hair on top of my head, and I've also got hair on my arm, but where's the rabbit hair?
On top of your head. The hair's on your head.
I've never been so embarrassed in all of my life. That was my big trick. Now what do I do for an encore?
Why don't you play the lead in Swan Lake?
What part'll I play?
The lake.
Thank you. That's the part I can really jump into. The number to call is BR549.
Junior's weight, he had weight troubles his whole life. He often neared 400 pounds and was on Hee-Haw for 14 years until he passed away of a heart attack in 1983 at the age of 57. So let's walk over here and let's see if we can't find the grave. You can see over there as they're getting ready for the funeral now. I'm gonna try to get done before they get here. They're right there. Oh, Junior, 83 samples. That would be him and his wife. Something simple. Probably is the way he wanted it. And there's some more samples over there. So yeah, one more time. Right there. Oh hey, I'm glad you're still here. I hope you're enjoying the video. If you do, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing, doing all those things to help the channel grow. It helps put us in the algorithm and all those things for YouTube. And we have merch, and we've got the liquid IV stuff. It'll be down in the description. Enough of me chatting, back to the videos. Born in Florence, Kentucky, Kenny was raised on a farm in Boone County, Kentucky. He learned to play guitar when he was 5 years old. And from 1952 until 1954, Price served in the U.S. Army during the Korean War, reaching the rank of corporal. While stationed in Korea, he auditioned for a USO show, and before being discharged, he had decided to become a professional musician. He first recorded for Boone Records and then moved on to RCA in '69, where he stayed until '76, or for most of his career. Price worked with Ray Pennington, whose style complemented his own. Price had 34 singles chart in his career, including Walking on the New Grass, a top 10 hit in '66, Happy Tracks, Northeast Arkansas, Mississippi County Bootlegger, that was a top 20 hit, and The Sheriff of Boone County, which hit the country top 10 also. Standing 6'6" tall and weighing nearly 300 pounds for most of his career, he was nicknamed the Round Mound of Sound and wrote a whole song by the same name in '68. Many of his comedic songs made reference to his size. The Heavyweight is an example. In later years, Price became significantly thinner and lampooned himself in the song The Boone County Weight Watchers of America. In '75, Price relocated to Nashville, and after a few unaccredited appearances, he became a regular on Hee-Haw. He remained with the show until his death. Right there. I knew it was over here somewhere. There we go. He passed away of a heart attack at the age of 56 on August 4th of 87. So there you go. Check another one off the Hee-Haw list. So as we walk across, we're going that way. I'm pretty sure that's where it showed it at on Find a Grave. So Mr. Aikman was born in Annville, Kentucky. He got his first banjo when he was 12 years old in exchange for a prize pair of bantam chickens. Aikman began playing at a local dance and gained a reputation as a musician. But the income was not enough to live on. So he joined the Depression-era Civilian Conservation Corps, building roads and planting trees. Now you could correct me in the comments, but I'm pretty sure that was the thing that Roosevelt did, right? To jumpstart the country out of the Depression. So eventually, he entered a talent contest, judged by Asa Martin. He won and was invited to join Martin's band, and during an early appearance, Martin forgot his name. So he introduced him as Stringbean because of his tall, thin build. Aikman used that nickname for the rest of his career. We were right by the airport too, so if you hear that, that's what that is. All right. Aikman originally was only a musician, but when another performer failed to show up one night, he was used as a singer, and they made him, do some comedic relief. From then on, Aikman did both comedy and music. In '45, Aikman married Miss Estelle Stanfield. The same year, he formed a comedy duet with Willie Egbert Westbrook, and they were invited to perform on the Grand Ole Opry. You can tell it has rain. This concrete, my shoes are wet enough to prove it. Aikman, by now known only as Stringbean, was one of Opry's major stars in the 50s. He adopted a stage costume that accentuated his height, a shirt with an exceptionally long waist and tail tucked into a pair of short blue jeans, which he got those blue jeans from Little Jimmy Dickens. That's why they look so silly. Aikman kept his audience with his traditional playing and his mixture of comedy and song. He scored country chart hits with Chewing Gum and I Wonder Where Wanda Went. In '69, Aikman and Grandpa Jones became cast members of a new television show entitled Hee-Haw. Now, I didn't know when I started this channel a year ago that I was going to end up, thank you, construction, that I would end up trying to complete the Hee-Haw graveyard, the grave list, but that's kind of what we're doing now. I'm on this mission that we're going to complete this. So one of his regular routines was reading a letter from home to his friends. Ask about the latest letter, Stringbean would take it out, saying he carried it right next to my heart. Not finding it in his overalls pocket, he would check all of his other pockets by patting them with his hands until he found the letter, usually in his hip pocket. He was also the scarecrow in a cornfield who would say one-liners before being shouted down by the crow on his shoulder. Good times, right? Accustomed to the hard times of the Great Depression, Aikman and his wife lived frugally in a small cabin in Ridgetop, Tennessee. Their only indulgence was a Cadillac and a color TV. Depression-era bank failures caused Aikman not to trust banks with his money. Gossip around Nashville was that Stringbean kept large amounts of cash on hand. Though he was no means wealthy by entertainment standards, on Saturday night, okay, so this is where the story starts to get crazy, right? On Saturday night, November 10th, 1973, Aikman and his wife returned home after a performance at the Opry. Both were shot dead shortly after their arrival. So they have this life where they just live a simple life, Depression-era standards. Like my grandmother had kind of a life like that, and I'm sure your grandmothers, that if they went through the same thing, they did too, right? So they get home. Aikman and his wife were shot dead. The killers had waited for hours. Their corpses were discovered the following morning by their neighbor, Mr. Grandpa Jones. A police investigation resulted in the convictions of cousin John A. Brown and Marvin Douglas Brown, both 23 years old at the time. They had ransacked the cabin and killed Stringbean when he arrived. His wife shrieked when she saw her husband murdered. She begged for her life, but she was shot as well. The killers took only a chainsaw and some firearms. Now, speaking of the killers, Marvin Brown, he died of natural causes in 2003 at Brushy Mountain Penitentiary, and he is buried at the prison cemetery. And in 2008, the Tennessee Parole Board deferred any parole for 36 months for the other one. He was again denied parole in 2011, but in 2014, John Brown was granted parole and was released after serving 41 years of a 198-year sentence. So here we are. There's Miss Estelle and Mr. David. You can see David Stringbean with his banjo, together forever. And there's Miss Estelle with her fishing pole. And when you pull in, it says Music Row. So I don't know, like, forgive me, I know we're here for, you know, Mr. Aikman, but yeah, so there it is. So as we walk back towards the car, she's over that way somewhere, and I may have walked past her grave and not even known it. But Sarah Colley was her actual name. Minnie Pearl was her stage name. Was born in Centerville in Hickman County, Tennessee, 50 miles southwest of Nashville. She graduated from Ward Belmont College, now Belmont University. At the time, it was Nashville's most prestigious school for young ladies, where she majored in theater studies and dance. Let's try to walk this way a little bit. She taught dance for the first few years after graduation. Gosh, this wind. Maybe it's just Nashville. It always seems like it does this in Nashville and Atlanta. Okay, everywhere. Let me correct that. Her first professional theatrical work was with Wayne P. Sewell Production Company, a touring theater company based in Atlanta. She produced and directed plays and musicals for local organizations throughout the Southeast. That's a cool piece, isn't it? With the boots. You can tell he's a vet. I see his dog tags on it too. Part of her work involved making brief appearances at civic organizations to promote the group shows. And during this time, she developed her Minnie Pearl routine while producing an amateur musical comedy in Bladen, Alabama, which is around Coleman. She met a mountain woman whose style and speech became the basis for cousin Minnie Pearl. Her first stage performance as Minnie Pearl was in 1939 in South Carolina. Her now famous hat was purchased at a downtown department store called Swarovski Brothers. The following year, executives from the Nashville radio station saw her perform at a convention and gave her an opportunity to premiere on the Grand Ole Opry. The success of her debut on November 30th of 1940 began an association with the Opry that continued for more than 50 years. Pearl's comedy was gentle satire of rural Southern culture, often called hillbillies. That's a very common name that they classify us as. You know, us people that say y'alls and hims and reckons and all that stuff. You know, we're not smart people, are we? Pearl always dressed in frilly, down-home dresses and wore a hat with a price tag hanging that had $1.98 on it. Her signature greeting to her audience, all right, I'm not going to do this justice, was "Howdy!" And she just said, "I'm just so proud to be here." She had self-deprecating humor about herself, which is great if you can't make fun of yourself. You know, you don't really need to poke fun at others, right? Pearl drew much of her comedic material from her hometown Centerville, which she called Grinder Switch. Grinder Switch was a community just outside Centerville that consisted of little more than a railroad switch. Those who knew her recognized that the characters were largely based on people that lived down there. After battling breast cancer through aggressive treatments, including a double mastectomy and radiation, she became a spokeswoman for the medical center in Nashville, where she had been treated. She took on this role as herself, Sarah Ophelia Cannon, not Minnie Pearl. Although a non-profit group, the Minnie Pearl Cancer Foundation was founded in her memory to help fund cancer research. Minnie Pearl suffered a debilitating stroke in '91, bringing her performing career to an end. After the stroke, she resided in Nashville at a nursing home where she received frequent visits from many country music stars. She passed away on March 4th of '96 at the age of 83 from another stroke. And there it is, right there. This would be the family lot, I assume. And right there she is, Sarah Ophelia Collie Cannon. All right, that's it. That's the collection of Hee-Haw Graves. Thanks for watching. By you watching, sharing, liking, doing all those things, it helps the channel grow, and I can't thank you enough. It's because of you and I get to go do the things together that we do. So I can't thank you enough for watching and sharing. It's been a wild year, and I'm excited to be able to make a collection because we've done so much together. We have enough now to put in a collection video. So thanks for watching. There's more coming next year. See you guys on the next one.